Let me just start by telling you a little what Invest India is, because I'm sure many of you don't know. We are the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of the Government of India. Our primary function is to handhold each and every investor and get their investment grounded in India. The second is Startup India. We are the execution arm for Startup India. The third is we are the execution arm for the Prime Minister's Science and Technology Initiative. And the last vertical being that we are also working on the digitization of the entire investor journey. It's very interesting. And I'll start with that. And you know what really got me was your comment when you were looking to set up your plant. And instead of India, you decided on China. And I'll tell you what happened with us during the lockdown, the worst lockdown ever in human history. Last year in October, we were doing some virtual webinars. And we had a company which reached out to us, which was an electronics company. They had already bought their plant in Vietnam, not a plant, but a plot of land had been allotted to them. And they go into the automobile industry. They just happened to get in touch with our team. The team worked with them. We finally brought it to a point where the cost in India, landed cost, is 18% lower than Vietnam. They are no longer putting it up in Vietnam. They are putting it up in a state in South India. Now, I'll tell you why am I telling you this. It's very interesting because until last year, so whenever we do the India presentation, we have a tagline. Until last year, the tagline was transforming India. And the reason why we use that tagline, because this is the most unprecedented transformation ever in human history in the free world. Both in terms of the pace at which India was changing, at the scale at which India is changing, but I will not speak about that. I'll tell you what is now the new tagline of our presentation. We actually just finalized it last week. And Mr. Ratnu, I was telling you, because this is what we want to now take forward to the world. And the new tagline for our presentation is the India Promise. We have moved from that transformation, and now we are promising you that when you come to India, what will happen. And let me tell you, the two biggest things to my mind, we started Invest India, effectively Invest India 2.0, in 2015 when the Honorable Prime Minister wanted this agency to be created. The biggest change which I have noticed, and there are two things. One is you talked about these industrial land banks and these townships, very critical. And I must compliment what you've done in Noida, let me tell you. And we are doing multiple others. We've started a rating system. We are bringing global best practices to you to make that happen. And we are seeing this across the country. By the way, we have over 7,000 industrial clusters in India. The specialization which we bring in India in terms of an ecosystem is unmatched anywhere. The only thing we need to do is to upgrade them anyway. Let me tell you the second biggest thing to my mind, which is now going to be a big game changer. And this alludes to what you said. This alludes to what Mr. Rao said. I know, once an investor, this was 2 years ago, and this is just before the lockdown, Mr. Ratnu. He was in my office and he said, what if you go and get a blood test and you don't know when you're going to get the report? He said, that's what I feel when I come into India. I put in an application and I have no idea when I'll get that approval. And I heard that from all of you. And you can hear that pain, and especially now that we've all been through blood tests and you get your RT-PCR, you don't know when you're going to get the result. It can be really excruciating. Well, just about 120 days ago, we've done the soft launch of what is the National Single Window. I would urge all of you to please come on to that portal. What you need to do there, when you come, it will ask you a few questions. You will get one application form. You just fill that out once. You just give in your documents once, and then it goes to get you all approvals which you require, both at the central and the state government level. We've already done up to about 6,000 odd approvals which have gone through it. We are doing the soft launch on that. We have a large number of states which have already joined. We have 30 ministries which are on it. To my mind, that probably will be one of the biggest game changers in India. See, let's face it. The opportunity which is available in India is undisputed today. You're the fastest growing, largest economy on the planet. And let me tell you also what happened. Last year, 31st March, when we closed, you had the highest FDI you ever had in your history, right? But let me tell you more interesting. It came from 89 countries. 89 countries trust India today. And I'll tell you the other thing. It came across 63 sectors. There is no other economy on the planet which has received an FDI from so many countries across so many sectors. None. It shows the other thing. The opportunity space, which is across 63 sectors, is one of the biggest opportunities for capital to flow in. And let me tell you the third part to it. It came across 29 states and union territories in India. If I had drawn this chart 5 years ago, it would have been 12 states and union territories. The engine of India has moved beyond the metro cities to the small towns and cities of India. The new India is bottom up and not top down, where each one of our 1.5 billion human resource, which is what we will be in 2024, the highest human resource on the planet, will have the ability to part in. I loved some of the suggestions which came in today. The housing bit, we are working on that. You know, common housing spaces. I don't know if it will ever work to a point where you can actually transfer the ownership to the labor, because that typically doesn't happen anywhere in the world. But that is one of the things which we are already wanting to do when we are upgrading each of these clusters. I'll tell you what we are working on. If somebody came to me today and said, I have $1 trillion, can you take it? I can't. We did not have the capital absorption capability, which is very critical in a market. Today we have that. If you go to my India investment grid, I would urge each one of you to please go. By the way, you must come onto the Invest India website. It's rated as the world's #1 website of all IPAs. And your Invest India, which was what I represent in a short period of 7 years, has been rated by the UN as the world's #1 investment promotion agency. And by the way, I must tell you, my budget is at least less than 10% of what my competitors globally have. And as the true mark of it, so like the World Association of Investment Promotion Agencies based out of Geneva with 105 countries, last year in October, Invest India in India was unanimously elected as its president for 2 years to be a gold standard in the world. Remember, I was telling you how fast India is changing. This is one of those examples. And by the way, I must tell you, I have a young team. Keep me out of it. It's the same as the average age of India, which is 29. Each one in that team has taken a 7 to 95% pay cut to join, only to work with all of you to make India grow. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the new India which is coming up. So when we talk about these industrial clusters coming up and the way, and I must congratulate Mr. Meena, Mr. Abhishek, everyone else who was a part of this. Have you seen how they've gone down to the utilities and they're creating it to a point before they're opening it up? But this is what I was hearing from all of you, and I think the big change which has happened to all of us after this virus is that it is no longer work, live, and play. It is live, play, and work. Our lives have changed, and our minds have changed. And so are our expectations. And I think the new industrial townships we are all working on and creating these habitats for you are actually wanting to create living habitats for you. And when we talk about the smart cities, by the way, your team at Invest India is also now working on the one district, one product. And we've got some phenomenal stories which are happening there. If you come to our website, you'll see those stories on how they are joining the dots to make that happen and how you're seeing. And even yesterday, you saw the Ayush thing which came up out of Gujarat. The entire team was there, and so was I. And now we've had a large number. So before we have everyone come, and let me just tell you, before COVID started, my book was $69 billion. When I say my book, this is, we actually have a dedicated relationship manager for every company which comes in, and we help them out on everything. Today, in the midst of that lockdown, my book is at $200 billion. These are not in the air. These are actual indicative plans of each of these companies. We know exactly when the money is coming, what is happening. 36 billion of that has already come in. This is what is actually happening, which is not out there in the public domain yet. And this is creating a momentum which is now picking up. So when you talk of Hyundai is one of its most efficient plants in the world, it's in India. When you talk of Toyota as one of its most efficient plants in the world, it is in Pune. This story goes on. It's not that we are not efficient. We have to bring down logistics. But let me also say, when somebody tells you that 12% or 15%, it's not broadly across. If you take it sectorally and geographically, you will say it impacts you in a different manner. But the moment Gati Shakti comes in, that tying up of the last mile is what we all needed. And that is what is now happening. So when I have a national single window, and my next phase on the national single window will be what you wanted. One is we brought you the application, right? So that's simple enough. And you put in all your documents once, so you don't have to go around doing it multiple places. The second will come, which is what we have started the re-engineering process, is where we will now bring it within a timeline. So that is already started, and what really helps us is that we are the only platform in the country where all the state governments and the central government together own it. So it works seamlessly across the country, so as to speak. There are multiple other initiatives which are happening on this one. In fact, one of the things we will be doing at some of these townships, if we're going to be mapping them, I was hearing earlier, sectoral mappings are very critical. I've had a number of countries which have come to us and they want country townships, like the ones which we have in Japan. We are working on those. I heard someone mention about the logistics, hub. We already are looking at some of these hubs being created. Some states have already earmarked plots of land where we'll be creating logistics hub or other sectoral hubs. So you will be all out there. And I understand completely why a plug-and-play model and a very effective ecosystem can only be created if we create these hubs. And these could be sectoral or these could be regional, that is based on countries. But to my mind, the biggest change which is making happen in India is our states. Investment comes to a state in India. It doesn't just come to India. And if I look at my 28 states plus 8 special territories, let me divide them into 3 buckets of, let's say, 8 to 9 each. This aircraft is currently being powered by one engine. And I'll tell you what I'm trying to say. My growth rate is currently 8.5%, 9%. I have one engine of about 9 states, which is growing at 8.9% plus. In fact, I have states growing at 12%, 14%, even 15%. That engine is firing. The second engine is anywhere between 6 and 8.5%. That is now getting ready to fire. The third engine is at 4.5 to 6.5%. That will start firing in the next 24 months. You know what I'm trying to say? The ministers come. My last line. This story has just begun. So next time, India is the place. Thank you, the ministers here.